Welcome back to the Weekly Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and this episode is going to be kind of a scouting notebook, we'll call it. I guess that's kind of a cliche name for all these other scouting kind of episodes for people who cover the draft and podcasts, but until I come up with a better name, we'll call it my scouting notebook for right now. Today, I'm going to be going through some of the guys that I've been, in my free time during my days. I scout these players using film. Shout out to Jake Burrow and KillPro 98, I believe his name is, or 88, KillPro 88, there it is. They do cut-ups of games and film and specific players on YouTube, and I just use those to try to do the best scouting I can without having access to all the normal, I don't have ins with people that get like all 22 film of all these teams and things like that, so I have to use what I have available to me, which is a YouTube film online. And this is probably the most in-depth I've gone ever, and this year I have a new grading system. I'm really having the grades impactful. I know what to look for more nowadays, and I'm really just trying to get into really being good at the scouting thing and getting a solid board out. We may potentially think about making a Discord for the YouTube channel now we've had 100 subscribers, and making the board available in Discord. Has all my individual player write-downs linked inside of it too, and you can see all my grades and all this and that. So that's something I'm potentially looking to do. But today I'm going to go over some of my guys that I've seen so far and some not my guys. So we know what a my guy and not my guy is. It's basically just players that I feel are underrated, or I like more than what the public consensus is. I follow a lot of other draft people, like the Draft Dudes over at the Draft Network. They have a podcast. It's a phenomenal podcast where they talk about draft things, and they have a big board, and they have a whole team. And they're one of those guys. They're a group that has like the all 22 films of these guys and things like that. One of my oldest influences has been Walter Football. They rank positions and they give detailed descriptions of each player, and they rank a bunch of players. So as early as the year before their draft class. So they're very good. Charlie, I think it's I don't remember what his name is. Charlie something. He's very good at what he does. I don't listen to his podcast, but I do follow Walter Football a lot. And then also people like Matt Miller, who previously was working at Bleacher Report for their draft area in the app, and now he has his own website. So I follow a bunch of guys like that who cover the draft. Mel Kiper, obviously, and these are just guys for my guys. The my guys section of this, which will be first, are just guys that I like more than the public consensus, and I'll explain why. And just guys I'm higher on than other people. Another influence, even though I tend to find myself disagreeing with him a lot, but you don't get anywhere just listening to things you agree with. You listen to things you disagree with as well, especially with like draft stuff and things like that. I try to do that so that way I can see a different perspective on the things I'm looking at. Someone who I don't agree with most of the time, but I do follow his draft content to just get a different perspective on these players, is that franchise guy on YouTube. Check him out if you haven't. He's much, much, much bigger than us, so you probably already heard of him. But let's get into it. So I'm just going to start out with my guys. I have a really, really, really special one at the end of this list that I have not seen. No one, not a single one of those people I just listed has talked about him. Walter Football doesn't even have him listed. And I'm like just stunned. I don't know if I'm missing something, if I'm seeing something that other people are. I'm not seeing something that other people are seeing, or like I'm seeing things where there isn't things there. But we'll get into him at the end. He's gonna be the last one, just because suspense. But we'll start off with the most well-known one. I'm basically gonna start these off with well-known and make my way down to the last guy, who I think is like someone that, to my knowledge, no one has talked about or covered in the draft community that really needs to be talked about, and I'll explain to that once I get there. So first up, we have Malik Willis. If you watched my top 5 draft quarterbacks before the season started, I had Malik Willis at number 1. Nothing has changed there. He has just proven me right at this point, and I've now heard other people discussing that he's now getting up there and competing for QB1 with Spencer Rattler. I had Spencer Rattler at 2, just to give you reference, they're a half point away from each other. Malik Willis is 13th on my board, and Rattler's 18th, but they're only Willis only it is an 85 opposed to Rattler's 84 and 0.5. Both good for first round grades, but they're very close. But I think Willis, he's been able to rein in the craziness, rein in the stallion is what I like to say. He's be able to tone down in the turnover-worthy plays and really use his athleticism and arm talent, which is the best of like the top guys right now, outside of like maybe Carson Strong. So really, he reined it in, and he's now able to play fast, loose, and use all of his amazing athletic talents while also not being a detriment to his own team. I bring him up specifically because people are saying he's getting in the race for QB1, and I've had him as my QB1 this entire process, but he plays Syracuse this weekend, and that will be a big test because they usually produce some NFL talent every year. But I'm telling you, everyone right now, mark down November 6th on your calendars because he's facing Ole Miss, Matt Corral versus Malik Willis. My number 1 and number 3 quarterback prospect facing each other. And Malik Willis, this is his coming out game. This is a game, mark me down, I will put money on it, that November 6th is the day that Malik Willis comes out and solidifies himself as QB1. Everyone will start calling him QB1. You'll see him listed as QB1 after that. That is his game. He's going to come in, beat this ranked team, and he's going to show the arm talent, the athleticism, all that on a big stage, and he's going to just solidify himself as that number 1 prospect. Nothing against Spencer Rattler. I like him, but he struggled against teams like Tulane. I'm still not in love with his pocket presence and his feet mechanics, so he has work to go. Malik Willis, I think, has those things on top of better athleticism and better arm. So I'm high on Malik Willis more than other people, and I've been high on him to this point. Like I said, I have video proof of that. Sorry, I got a text from my fellow modified coaches to discuss some game plan right now, so I wanted to shoot them a text. Number 205 on my list, we have Aiden Hutchinson, who's on this list specifically because of the Washington game. Now, just personally, I am a University of Washington fan. I wasn't really that big into college football, like a fandom or anything. I go to University of Buffalo, so I enjoy them, but I wasn't a fan of any specific team until 2017 when John Ross and Baron Browning went to the number 4, faced Alabama in the playoffs. I became a UW fan that year. So I was excited to see Jackson Kirkland, who's my number 2 offensive tackle right now, go up against Aiden Hutchinson in the Michigan defense. Aiden Hutchinson embarrassed Jackson Kirkland. And nothing against Jackson Kirkland. I dropped him a point maybe because of that game, but Aiden Hutchinson was just on his game and was just embarrassing everybody in the game. He looked like now this isn't my own personal take. I've heard this from other people. He looked like J.J. Watt in that game. And the strength he plays with, the athleticism that I didn't really see in his previous tape, his bend, his pass rushing moves that he brings to the table, it really shot him up my board, specifically from that one game. And I went back and watched some of his other game film from this year, and it's just been super good. And he has improved in all the areas he needed to improve to go up my board, like I said, or like I was writing down in my prospect profiles before the year started. So Aiden Hutchinson is improving in all the right spaces that I am higher on him than I was at the beginning, and he's kind of one of my guys now because I just liked him that much. He's not my number 1 pass rusher or anything. He's 19th on my board, so I might be with the consensus there. Maybe even a little bit lower than some other people, but I just wanted to bring him up because he made a big jump in all the places I needed him to. Next up, we have another pass rusher, someone I got to this week specifically. I didn't get to him until the middle of the season, so I didn't get any summer scouting on him. But I have a 3rd round grade on him, and it's like a 3/2, leaning towards a 2. But no one I've seen has talked about him. Walter Football was the only place that actually had him on their list, and I don't remember where he even was on their list. Let me double check that real quick. Let's see, 2022 DN rankings. Yeah, I found him because I was just going through trying to find another guy I haven't done yet on their listing. And I came across, he's number 4 on our list, so they have him number 1 and 2. So I'm maybe not as high as them, but I've only just gotten into him recently, so I'm very impressed by him. He is a defensive end from LSU, 6'6", 250. Like I said, you have a 2/3 grade on him, leaning towards a 2. He is. I am just astonished that no one else besides like guys Walter Football was talking about him. They don't even have that detailed of a thing on him. And he has pass rush moves. Like, it's not. He has some pass rush moves. He just needs to work on his counters. but like he is this big, long, powerful edge rusher who just embarrasses some offensive tackles. I know he's not going to be like he's not a one size fits all kind of guy. Well, he's going to have to be in a specific system, like a strong side defensive end, or maybe like a 3-4-5 tech. But like he comes out and he's a great run defender. He just moves people at the edge position. He's kind of like Aiden Hutchinson and George Karlaftis, but a little less explosive and needs to work on his moves and stuff. But I was like, I saw his name on Wolf Football and I was like, they have a 1 or 2 grade on him. I've never heard anyone else talk about him. So then I went and checked it out. I'm like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. Like I could draft him and rotate him in as a early down defender immediately in the NFL, and then allow him to grow his pass rushing as he acclimates to the game. Because even with the jump from, because I watched some 2020 tape from him, I watched some 2021 tape, specifically the UCLA game, and he's already made big strides as a pass rusher. And I think he only has up to go. And I think that he's just a guy no one's really talking about in this pass rushing group, which is pretty deep. And we'll get to more pass rushers and not my guys, but that's it for my guys. Next up, we got a wide receiver. Like I said, I'm a University of Washington fan, so I was watching Jackson Kirkland tape and K-Dot tape, and this guy kept jumping on my screen for me. And I think with the way the NFL's trending, he could be a higher pick than some think. I have him as a 2, a second-round pick, actually one spot above Treylon Burks. It is Terrell Bynum, wide receiver out of University of Washington. When you think of a slot receiver, most people don't put a lot of value into it, but the art of being a slot receiver and having the elite quickness and agility and having the smarts to find holes in zones and work off your quarterback when he's scrambling and things like that, those aren't easy to come by, and Terrell Bynum hits all those out of the park. Now, he's not as big. He's 6'1", 190, so he's not like the prototypical X receiver size. He isn't like I said, biggest catch radius. He struggles with some things that won't necessarily make him an X receiver. But I can say right now that the way he runs his routes out of the slot, he works primarily out of the slot. He's been working some outside this season for the Washington Huskies, but he is a great route runner out of the slot, like elite route running. His catch radius, like I said, smaller. He has the speed and the breakaway ability and with the ball in his hands to make big plays out of nothing. He's a very sure-handed player, and he creates a lot of separation. It's just that his release off the line is iffy, and he's smaller, so he might get bullied by larger corners, and if he needs to increase his release if he wants to be an outside corner. But as a slot, his route running, his big play ability, his hands, and his intelligence while out there, plus his rack ability, is just perfect for a slot receiver in the modern NFL, and he can be gimmick touches with handoffs and things like that, like they're doing at the University of Washington. They're doing all this stuff for him, and he's just knocking them all out of the park, and it's like a prototypical slot receiver. Like someone like Kansas City could use a guy like this. People who have those outside receivers that are in need, like the Buffalo Bills could use this. Cole Beasley's done after the season with the team. He has 1 year left on his contract, plus all the controversy, and he's getting up to their age. They could draft Terrell Bynum in the second round, and he'd slot right in as their starting slot receiver. He has all the qualities you want in a day one, out at the bat. He's a pro-ready slot receiver right now, and he could improve his release packages and things like that and move to the outside. So I'm not saying it's just those things are what's holding him back from being a first-round pick for me. I'm just saying the slot receiver position is very important in the NFL now, especially with a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. And finding a guy, because slot receivers aren't that hard to come by, but a guy who does things that you want your slot receiver to do, and he does them elite level like this, it's hard to come by with the agility and all that stuff. So it's just the next step up from a slot receiver kind of player, plus a big play. If you don't have that big play ability in your passing game, he can add that for you. And now, this is the whole reason I wanted to make this episode of the podcast, and I'm probably going to start making this from now on, week to week, along with the predictions and review of games. Is this one player. I've been hyping him up this entire time I've been doing this episode, and this whole episode was made based on him because I did his tape a couple nights ago. I was watching Desmond Ridder film against Indiana from this past weekend, and he was alright. Kind of struggled in the first half, brought it back together in the second half, but didn't really win because of himself. And the reason Indiana was doing so good in the first half was that defense. And they shut down the run game. Ridder had little time to pass and no real open passing windows. And one guy kept jumping out of the screen at me when I was watching Desmond Ridder play on Indiana's defense. And I looked him up, and I was like, oh, he's a senior, so he's draft eligible this year. Like, he can't not be draft eligible. Why isn't anybody talking about Cam Jones? Number 4, linebacker out of Indiana. He is bursty and explosive. He's 6'3", 224, so he's not like the prototypical linebacker size. But as a weak side prospect, a weak side linebacker prospect, like we talked about with Brandon Smith, or other guys that have come out recently that were like, oh, he has to play the weak side, and then have developed into middle linebackers at the NFL level. Why is Cam Jones being mentioned by nobody? He's not on Walter Football's list of, like, they have like 70 linebackers. Or like 50, 40, something stupid. They have like 40 different linebackers, including the other Indiana linebacker. Cam Jones isn't on the list. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe he's not the guy I'm thinking he is, and I'm just being bamboozled and he's not draft eligible. Or that I'm missing something in his game that people are saying are like, ugh. But I saw an explosive, twitchy linebacker who maybe doesn't have the best pass rush moves, but is so good at timing his rush with the snap that he just beats the lineman off the ball, and even without having pass rush moves, can get pressure on the quarterback. And he's not just a pass rusher, he's always around the ball. Every time the handoff is happening, if he can, this is his big knock, is that he can't really separate from blocks, which is why I'm saying he's like a weak linebacker prospect, because like there's guys like in the NFL, like Matt Milano, who can't disengage from blocks for anything, but he just got paid the bag. Cam Jones, if the offensive lineman has got his hands on him, he's basically a non-factor for the play. But a running back, tight end, he's been able to disengage from them. And when he's kept clean and just attacks from the backside, he's so bursty and quick. He gets the ball right away. He makes surefire tackles. Sometimes he'll miss a tackle or two, but usually when those happen, he's slowed up the runner enough for the rest of the guys to make a play. But he lays wood. He kills guys, especially in that. Watch that Cincinnati game. He was everywhere. And in pass coverage, he's athletic enough to stick with tight ends and running backs in man coverage, and is smart enough to, in zone coverage, to go find a guy when he's not being. I'm pretty sure he was being the spy for most of the game against the Cincinnati Bearcats because Desmond Ridder is such a threat with his legs. But he was either the spy or he was in man coverage, and when he was in zone coverage, he just didn't stand there and watched grass. He went and found a guy and took away passing lanes. And the one time I actually saw him actively give up a reception was when they ran a levels concept at him. So it was either defend the back in-breaking route or defend the shallow crosser, and that's always a hard spot to put any defender in, so they eventually got completion on the deep in-breaking one, which if I had one criticism of that, just take away the deep route and come up make a tackle. But he's aggressive, he plays well against the run, plays well against the pass, he can blitz, he can work on some pass rush moves. I don't get what people aren't seeing. I really don't. He's not like a super long, lengthy linebacker, but that hasn't stopped anybody from drafting those guys before. I have him as a second round grade, an 80.5, above Brandon Smith. I have him graded better than Brandon Smith out of Penn State. Now, I haven't gone back and rewatched Brandon Smith in a little bit, so maybe that'll change. But I am baffled that Cam Jones is getting no attention whatsoever. I need someone to explain it to me, drop a comment, tell me what I'm missing, tweet at your favorite draft coverage guys. I'm going to start every day on the Weekly Huddle Twitter. I'm going to start tweeting, day one of not understanding why Cam Jones is being slept on. And I'm going to go on the Draft Dudes live stream because Kyle Krabs covers the Big Ten and ask him, why are you sleeping on Cam Jones? And maybe I'll get the explanation to me. But for right now, from what I'm seeing, I can't see why he's not an early day 2 prospect. Anyway, transitioning to the Not My Guys segment. I only got 4 here, and I'm running a little bit out of time here. I gotta go back to work. I'm on my lunch break right now, and I'm just gonna whiz through these guys a little bit. Spencer Rattler, we kind of talked about it already. I'm not that high on him. He's my QB2, and I'd say 18th overall on my board. I like him. He could be something in the league. I just think that he needs to sit in season for a little bit, work on his mechanics. He needs to take the Josh Allen route, where he needs to go find a guy who, he might go to Carson Palmer and have him fix your mechanics up. And then at that point, he could be a better quarterback in the NFL than he is right now at college. At the college level, it works because he's super athletic and he's super smart and he's super talented. And that'll get you wins at the collegiate level. But to succeed in the NFL, he's going to need to clean some things up. going back to Walter football, I was looking to D tackles because I hadn't scouted a ton of them. But they had Perion Winfrey as their D tackle 1 over DeMarvin Leal. So I said, holy crap, because DeMarvin Leal is my number 2 player on my board. What are they talking about? Went and watched Perion Winfrey. I don't see it. I don't. Maybe I'm missing something. But with my process and the way I'm doing it, Perion Winfrey is my 51st player on my board. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be taking 1 off of these. So Malik Willis is 12th on my board. And Spencer Rattler is 17th because I have 1 spot for the titles and things. So that was a mistake by me. But yeah. Anyway, Perion Winfrey, 51st on my board. And it's just... He doesn't get good penetration. He's not super explosive off the ball. Like he was against his game in Nebraska. He was better. But like I don't see where they think he could be better than Marvin Leal. He has the flexibility. He's super athletic. He's super athletic for position. And he showed improvement of explosiveness this season. But like he doesn't come with any pass rush plan. He often just runs himself out of run plays or doesn't have any effect in it. He's not the most powerful D tackle, and he needs to improve his power because he's only 291. And he just gets moved out of the way. He's a non-factor in the run game. So I don't understand what they see in Leal or in Leal. I don't know what they failed to see in Leal or what they see in Winfrey. That's how they organized it. But yeah, I just was astonished. I know some other people talked about him before the season started, like, oh, watch out for him. I don't see why. I have him as a 3rd round prospect, as like a pass rushing down specialist, and that's about it for right now until he can add. I think if he adds weight muscle wise, he'll be good. Justin Ross I have as a 6th to 7th rounder. I personally have Joseph Nagata better, even though they're not that far apart in my grades. But Justin Ross comes off these major injuries, which I don't factor into the scouting because it's not my job to scout injuries. It's my job to scout the talent. And he's a good route runner. He's got a good catch radius because he's a big bodied guy, but he does nothing with the ball in his hands. I don't trust him with any rack things. His releases are decent, and he's really tough competitively, but I think he's strictly an outside receiver who is more of a red zone threat. Justin Hunter-esque, I would kind of say, with better route running. He's never going to be the guy that you run screens to or try to get him on a crosser route to see if he can make something happen on like a 3rd and long. It's strictly run and go route, run it deep in, run a comeback, and catch the ball and just drop because he's not. I don't view him as anything great with the ball in his hands, and I think he's specifically just like a red zone threat, and I want to see proves me something else and shows that he can be a better athlete, which with all these injuries I doubt he'll be able to. I'm not high on him at all. And my final guy, which going back and just looking at Walter football again, when I like to go check where Ali Gay was, they had this guy above Kayvon Thibodeau. And I saw he's in the top 20 or top 30 of the draft dudes boards, all of them. He's in the top 20 as an edge rusher. And I was like, ooh, I never even heard of this guy before. Let me go check him out. So I can have like a Majai Sanders situation where I fall in love with a guy that everyone else loves. No. Adam Anderson out of Georgia is a late 3rd round player for me. He doesn't have all that great pass rush moves. He fails to come with a consistent plan to attack the offensive lineman. He makes some splash plays in run game, but often is not a factor. I don't know if that's just how they're playing him, but he's super athletic, he's super explosive and bendy and things like that. But like, he doesn't have a lot of plays with a lot of power. He takes himself out of run plays. He doesn't defend the run really well. His pass rushes, all of his pass rush winning is basically just out athletic in the offensive tackle, which isn't going to work in the NFL when all the offensive tackles are super athletic. So he only brings these things, and I just don't see it. He needs to add weight. He's only 230. He needs to add muscle to increase his power. He needs to retool his entire pass rushing kit, and he needs to be able to figure out how to just win at the next level, because right now it's just, I don't see it. And better than Kayvon Thibodeau is horrific. Kayvon Thibodeau is a great athlete and doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves like Adam Anderson, but he also has the power and the build of a guy who can just maul guys. Adam Anderson needs to win with quickness, speed, and technique, and he just fails to have the technique. So I can't get on board with him right now. I can't. As a developmental pass rusher who you have to bring in and put him through your weight room for 2 seasons before he can actually make a really good impact, I'll take him in the 3rd round or maybe the 4th round. Probably more like 4th round. But right now, as a top 20 pick and above Kayvon Thibodeau, absolutely not. But that's the last of not my guys. Like I said, leave comments in the description about any of the takes I have. Just tweet it at me at the Weekly Huddle. I'm on that. I run that mostly with my other guys, but all the draft takes you'll see will be me. And I think that I'm pretty confident in everything I've said here today. So if you disagree, I want to have a good conversation. Look out, maybe now again we hit 100 subscribers, which I'm very thankful for. I might open up a Discord to see if any of those subscribers want to come and join it, and then we can have discussions about draft stuff or just football stuff in general. We're going to be doing a special 100 subscriber episode. It's very Buffalo tinged, but it'll be coming out soon when Christian Tabor comes back from college because he's out of town right now going to school. But yeah, this has been my draft notebook, and this is going to be the second episode of the week that you're going to get outside of the predictions and reviews, which will be coming out either tonight, as of Wednesday, as I'm saying, or Thursday morning. So keep a lookout for that. But until then, check out the rest of our stuff, and I'll see you later.